Tonight, when the sun finally disappears below the horizon, you'll probably reach over and flip a light switch without even thinking about it. In an instant, your entire room will flood with light. And chances are you won't stop for even a second to wonder where that light actually came from. But do you realize something? For 99.9% of human history, this tiny on-off switch simply did not exist. When the sun went down, the world was swallowed by a primal, absolute darkness. A darkness so deep that you couldn't even see the palm of your own hand in front of your face. As modern humans, we've never truly experienced that kind of darkness. But your ancestors, my ancestors, every human ancestor for nearly 300,000 years spent almost half of their lives inside that endless black void. There were no candles back then. Only an infinite dark sky, millions of stars, and humanity's one fragile source of survival, fire. Have you ever wondered what our ancestors actually did during those long, silent nights? Because the answer to that single question could completely change the way we understand sleep, storytelling, and even what it means to be human. The circle of fire, where fear became culture. So let's begin with fire. Because fire was the magical key that transformed the human night forever. Archaeologists discovered evidence inside South Africa's Wonderwork cave, suggesting that humans first learned to control fire nearly 1 million years ago. But fire didn't just keep people warm during freezing nights, it completely reshaped the human day. Do you know what life looked like before fire? Almost exactly like other primates or chimpanzees. The moment the sun disappeared, humans would climb into trees or hide inside rocky crevices in complete silence. Because moving around in the dark often meant becoming dinner for a predator. African cheetahs, hyenas, and wolves could see through darkness far better than humans ever could. In that world, humans were painfully vulnerable. Then, fire changed everything overnight. A simple campfire created a safe circle roughly 30 feet wide around it. Inside that glowing circle, predators stayed away. Outside of it, death was almost certain. Even today, scientists studying ancient hunter-gatherer tribes like the Juhuansi Bushmen of the Kalahari Desert have noticed something fascinating. People who wander too far from the fire at night are still far more likely to be attacked by wild animals. Daylight versus firelight, the birth of psychology and storytelling. But fire didn't just keep humans alive, it gave humanity something it had never truly possessed before. Before fire, the human workday ended at sunset, maybe 8 to 12 hours at most. Fire suddenly added another 2 to 4 waking hours every single night, and those extra hours changed the human species forever. In 2014, anthropologist Polly Wiesner published a fascinating study through the National Academy of Sciences. She recorded the nighttime conversations of Bushman tribes living in the Kalahari Desert, and what she discovered was psychologically astonishing. During the daytime, nearly 80% of conversations were purely practical. Discussions about hunting, gathering food, survival strategies, or economic exchanges. Daytime conversations were about logistics, labor, and survival. But the moment night arrived and everyone gathered around the fire, human psychology completely transformed. Suddenly, 81% of their conversations became stories. Tales of heroes from distant lands, myths about the creation of the world, legends and humor and jokes that filled the entire camp with laughter. Polly Wiesner argued that these nighttime gatherings around fire were actually the birthplace of human culture itself. The campfire became humanity's first theater, first classroom, first church, and first sacred gathering place. Around those flames, humans learned to imagine things beyond immediate reality. In simple words, it was beside fire that we truly became human. First sleep and second sleep, the forgotten state of consciousness. But the night wasn't only about storytelling around a fire. It held another mystery that modern humans have completely forgotten over the last 100 years. Do you probably believe sleeping 8 uninterrupted hours is the natural human pattern? Actually, it isn't. In 2001, historian Roger Eckertz published research that shook the entire science of sleep. After 16 years of studying ancient historical records, he discovered more than 500 references to something remarkable, something that sounds unbelievable today. Prayer books from the 1400s, court documents, personal diaries, and even Homer's Odyssey repeatedly mention two phrases: first sleep and second sleep. Before industrialization, humans did not sleep for 8 continuous hours. People would fall asleep shortly after sunset. Then, after about 4 hours of sleep, they would naturally wake up in the middle of the night. For 1 to 3 hours, they remained completely awake. Then they would return to a second sleep until sunrise. This wasn't insomnia. This was the natural rhythm of human life. But what did people actually do during those strange midnight hours? Old French medical texts suggested that couples conceived children during this time because the body was deeply relaxed. Ordinary people would reflect on dreams they had just seen, visit neighbors, write poetry, or simply lie awake in silence, thinking peacefully about life itself. One doctor's manual from the 1500s even stated the quiet hours after midnight are the best time for prayer, meditation, and study. Modern science eventually confirmed this phenomenon. In 1992, psychiatrist Thomas Weir conducted a remarkable experiment. He placed a group of people inside an environment completely free from artificial light, where they experienced 14 hours of darkness every day. Within weeks, something extraordinary happened. Without any instructions at all, their bodies naturally returned to the ancient sleeping pattern. They slept for 4 hours, woke up peacefully for 2 hours, then slept another 4 hours until sunrise. But the strangest discovery came when scientists tested their hormones during those midnight waking hours. Their brains were releasing large amounts of a hormone called prolactin. The same hormone is commonly associated with meditation and deep relaxation. The participants described experiencing an overwhelming sense of peace and emotional calmness. This wasn't simply being awake, it was an entirely different psychological and spiritual state of consciousness, one modern humanity has almost completely lost. Conclusion: trapped inside a cage of light. So what destroyed this magical nighttime world? The answer is simple: light. During the 1600s, cities like Paris and London installed the first street lamps to reduce crime. Then came cheap candles, gas lamps, and finally, Thomas Edison's electric bulb in 1879. Within a single generation, humanity erased 300,000 years of natural darkness from the earth. Did you know the word curfew comes from the French phrase couvre-feu? It literally means cover the fire. In medieval times, bells would ring at night to remind people to extinguish their fires, because the night belonged to darkness, sleep, and nature. Today, after sunset, we spend another 7 to 8 hours beneath artificial light. The blue light from our phones tricks the brain completely. When your eyes see that glow at 11 p.m., your brain believes it's still daytime. It stops producing melatonin, the hormone responsible for sleep. And as a result, our sleep becomes fragmented and restless. Research shows that if you spend just 1 week camping in nature without electronic devices, your melatonin cycle naturally resets itself with the sunset once again. That ancient DNA programming inside you begins to awaken. We didn't just conquer the night with artificial light. We sacrificed an entire peaceful, meditative dimension of human consciousness. Today, when you suddenly wake up at 2 a.m. and toss around in bed, we immediately call it a disorder, insomnia. But think about it for a moment. Is it really a disorder? Or is your body, your ancient unconscious mind, quietly reminding you, for 300,000 years, your ancestors used to wake peacefully inside this sacred darkness. There is nothing to fear here. This is simply a quiet moment to face yourself and spend time with your own soul. In exchange for a simple light switch, we traded away the peaceful night sky, the Milky Way galaxy, and those sacred moments of silence with ourselves. And most of us don't even realize what we've lost. If you enjoyed this video, make sure to leave a like and share it with your friends.